how colorism is literally designed to make us, just like the beauty industry, just like getting your body done, is designed to make you obsess over something you do not have, to make you hate who you are. And every human being has this animalistic nature inside of us. And it's always stemmed, it always is ignited when we see something we don't have that we want desperately. Something that is the standard. This standard, the big thing. And when we don't possess that, it drives us mad. Dark-skinned women who have bleached their skin. And although I never took that route, I have went to other extreme measures. For example, I hid my natural hair. I was ashamed of it. When you're taught that everything about you is wrong, your skin color, your hair texture, your features, I don't have ambiguous features. You look at me, you can say, okay, I can tell she's black. I don't look mixed race. I didn't have the loose textured hair. So there would be times where I would see women who did, and I would fixate on their hair, and I would fixate on their beauty, and I just wanted to be them, because it was literally like, I just wanted to feel beautiful. I just wanted to feel included. And one thing I noticed with women who have pretty privilege, light skin privilege, white privilege, but let me just stay with light skin privilege or pretty privilege, period. They have the red carpet rolled out for them, right? And they experience life differently, and they demand things differently than a woman who does not. Does this make them bad? No. Does this make them, bossy or terrible people? No. But what I'm saying is I was able to really see from the perspective of friendships and just, in the media, how women who had the pretty privilege, women who had the beauty standard, they viewed the world differently than I did. So they weren't as insecure pursuing love like I was. They weren't as insecure as asking for things like I was. They were treated like, they're treated like these princesses, these most beautiful women in the world there. And I'm hyper fixating on these women with these beautiful features, the hair, the skin, and I'm wishing I was them. When I looked at in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I didn't want to see myself. I wanted to be the beauty standard. I wanted to be beautiful so bad. That was all I desired. And I found that, wow, it made me realize my own insecurities, my own imperfections. But when I go back in my history, not written history before I was born, I was constantly told that being me was wrong. And that's why things like catfishing happen. That's why things like skin bleaching and body and people going to get breast implants, that's why this stuff happens. So my whole point in this video is like, before we ridicule and kind of like throw people off, let's tie that back to ourselves. Wait, hold up, I can relate to this too. I may be a white man or a white woman, but I could relate to obsessing over women or men who had opulence or who had a fit body, and I did not. So we all, in a way, could relate to this. And when we don't have something that we want, our body literally goes into obsession mode. Literally goes into obsession. My memoir. And I'm talking about, my obsession with wanting to be the beauty standard, being a dark-skinned girl with 4C textured hair. And I would see certain women in the media who had ambiguous features. They could pass as, mixed race, or they could pass as they look like they're a whole bunch of different races, and they have the exotic look. They have the long, loose textured hair. They have the fair skin, the light skin, the white skin. And I realized throughout my life as a little girl, I fixated on these women because I wanted to be that. I wanted to feel beautiful, right? So I saw that my look was not praised in society, and that made me feel inferior. I was also able to see the privilege that light-skinned women had, white women had over me. And it was something that I suppressed, and I tried to, I never wanted to face these things because I was already going through them. So to me, studying my history, getting so deep into the African-American hardships was just too much to bear. But I realized I was actually facing them every single day. All can relate to someone having something that we don't have and hyper fixating on that thing we don't have. People who are poor can sometimes fixate on wealth and riches. We see that in the music industry. People who often didn't have money, they have a money fetish now, to the point where they worship money so much and they do things to sell their soul. We see this with people who, with their body. You know, they see women who have a certain type of body. Nicki Minaj, who fits the beauty standard, literally opened up in an interview with Joe Budden about how before she blew up, she was in the studio with Wayne, and Wayne was coming into the studio with these girls who had big butts, and he was using them as like his muses. And she saw, like, wow, this is what you're supposed to look like in the rap industry, and she obsessed over it to the point where she went and got, you know, butt injections. And I'm so glad she shared this, because this is, people will judge it and say, oh, that's crazy, why would you do that? But we all can relate to that. We all can relate to going to extreme measures of seeing something we don't have and doing whatever we can to achieve that thing, whether that be selling our soul, depleting our bodies, ruining our bodies, or tarnishing our self-esteem. And let me tell you something else, though. Just because they have this privilege doesn't mean they don't go through anything. Because I've learned, too, that some women who are light-skinned feel like they're only good for their skin, that men fetishize or idolize them because of their skin color. They're kind of viewed as eye candy, or, you know, just because they're the look, you know, they don't feel like they're really loved for who they are on the inside. So we're not going to also sit up here and act like just because somebody has a privilege, they don't go through anything. Similar to people who are wealthy. You know, people say, oh, yo, you have money, you have everything was handed to you. And you know how many wealthy people, and I truthfully, I truthfully empathize with wealthy people, because although I'm not wealthy, I definitely, financially, I'm on my way there. I wasn't down out bad either. It was like, I grew up middle class. So I've often experienced things with people who would come into my room, come to my house and be like, oh my God, you have this, you have this, you have that, and feel that envy, and I would feel a little bit of guilt. But let me say something. Wealthy people got to deal with their life being handed to them. They're not their life being handed to them, but their life being planned out for them every single second. They cannot do anything that they want to do because their father, their father's father, their father's father's father planned out everything for them. So while they might seem like entitled brats, they really don't have the freedom that you think they have, which is why they deal with the certain things that they deal with. So this is another thing when we think about privilege. We see someone who has something that we don't, but we don't realize that they're suffering too. I remember like watching videos, watching movies, and now I see it clear as day now. I watch movies, and the dark-skinned girls, right? This would piss me off. The light-skinned girl would have her hair blowing in the wind. She would have her skin's glowing. She literally looks like dangling fruit. The media knows how to create that image with the camera angle, with the setting, and you have the dark-skinned girl who's wearing a mammy wig, who's looked at as an aggressor. So, guys, what I realized, and this what used to piss me off, I said, wait a minute, okay, hold on. These dark-skinned women be beautiful. They just be looking a mess. So meaning the wig is terrible, the outfit is terrible. They not getting the same effects as the light-skinned girl. So when I'm starting to realize, I'm like, wait, no, these dark-skinned women are beautiful. They're just being portrayed in a negative way. And that's something that I have to take into account, but I'm not going to negate the years of racism and colorism that I've been through, but I'm going to use it for my good. But I just wanted to share that too. And that same thing happens, right? From the perspective when we're looking at something that we want, you're seeing, you didn't grow up, getting the latest shoes or, being able to do your room. You may have grew up in poverty. You probably didn't know what you had, if you were going to eat the next day, had sleep for dinner. You didn't have the nice shoes or the nice clothes. So when you see a kid at school who does, you obsess. And then that obsession is what grows into you willing to do anything for money. Hustling, scamming, selling your soul in the music industry, constantly flaunting your material possessions. So the crazy part is, how we might hear somebody tell their story about, going to extreme lengths, getting their body done, or bleaching their skin, or obsessing over money. But underneath all that is really about our animalistic nature in human beings to want what we don't have. And we got to be careful and strong, because we got to understand how this is happening. It's not to say that we shouldn't go after the things we want, but we really got to be honest with ourselves. A lot of times it's things that are in the flesh, like things we don't really need, or things that we, when you obsess over something, it really usually is something that can harm you. You know what I'm saying? So while I'm sitting up there and I'm obsessing over the woman that I didn't look like, wanting to live vicariously through them, wanting the attention, the praise, the love that they got, it's understandable why I did that. But then I gotta stop myself and say, wait a minute, this is an obsession. This is triggered by something. This is an agenda. This is an agenda. I think that's the first thing. I'm not going to give you this, just persevere through it and love yourself. Because wait a minute, we talking about some serious things that tarnish our self-esteem and change the trajectory of our lives. So I'm not about to come with you with no self-love stuff, but I'm just encouraging you to be aware of this obsession and understand how it's manipulation, and understand how it's there to kind of pull you away from the truth about yourself. So, again, I also want to vouch for dark-skinned women like myself who have literally seen the privilege of light-skinned women. Light-skinned women have also admitted to me that they have privilege. Like, we see white people who admit they have privilege. White people, we see the privilege they have. And a light-skinned person may see that in a white person and be like, yo. And you ever notice sometimes, too, you see black people who want to look white. You see, like what happened with Michael Jackson. We see what happens even with some women that, it's like they're emulating white features, and they're literally looking like a white person. We got to stop and ask ourselves, like, hold up. Who's really in control here? What am I really trying to achieve? Is this something that's going to benefit me and make me a better person? Or is this something that's going to make me hate who I am? It's crazy. We're always constantly running from ourselves with some type of obsession. Colorism, racism, getting your body done, success, opulence. Not to say don't pursue success. Hold on. I'm not saying to sit and be a lazy bum and hate money. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, when this endless pursuit to success and money, you got to really be able to highlight and pay attention to your motives. Because then you're going to look up a few years, 10 years from where you was hustling and realize, yo, what was this all for? What did I do all this for? And that's why you see so many people who got money, but they got empty souls. Not because it wasn't a good thing that they pursued money and pursued wealth to make their lives better, because money does make your life better. But because on the endless pursuit of of chasing that money, they lost themselves. Because they obsessed over what they didn't have and got lost in that. To the point that who they were didn't matter anymore as long as they had that thing. And this is what I'm trying to say in this video about how these things that are thrown at us, colorism, racism, body surgery, success, and all other things, right? That when we see things we don't have and the media portrays it as something that we need to have, like dangling fruit, skin color, beauty. It's like this in our face. And we snatch it. And we want it. And we have to have it. And we go on this endless pursuit to get it. And then we realize later on, what did I do all this for? That's why some people 10 years from now, they got all this body surgery and look terrible now. I'm sorry to say it, but look terrible. I realized with myself, I've obsessed over wanting to look a certain way and living vicariously through women who did not look like me, only to be left with a tarnished self-esteem and just self-hate. Not realizing what was at play, what was really the problem. Sorry, whatever, y'all. Not, and again, not saying that colorism isn't an issue, racism isn't an issue. I'm encouraging y'all to really go deeper and really analyze, really reflect on how you seeing something that you don't have is controlling you to the point of your detriment. It's your girl Hago signing out.